and you can't see how many people dislike a video. And but they still have dislikes. Yeah, you can see them internally, but they're not public. You can still do the math. That's not really true because certain videos have a higher response rate than others based off of what the video's about. Please you're moving a point, like dislike bar. I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, it's not as simple as... I mean, dislikes for comments was already a bad idea. I think people... My opinion on it is that I think YouTube just did it because, like, brands don't want to have their brand content get downvoted on YouTube. And I think a lot of times they do have that happen because most of their brand content is like weird agendas that the public doesn't really want to hear about or see. So like these brands, like I think that I think the best example was like the Gillette commercial whenever they were like with like the men like being abusive or like weird. I don't think it has anything to do with YouTube Rewind. I really just don't think so. I think it has to do with the brands. The White House too. Well, this is the thing, right? Is so like what this does is that it creates effectively a safe space for these brands to push agendas and to say things that if the public was able to really communicate with each other in an effective way, like through dislikes, for example, you can see it's like you ever done like a tech video, you had a problem with like your computer and you're looking for like a video on YouTube and you find a tech video and it has like a bunch of dislikes and you don't even watch the video because it's like people disliked it because it didn't work, and so you know that you don't have to waste your time with it. So I think like we can always talk about like how this affects a brand, and we can be kind of like that's definitely the boogeyman for sure. But what's even worse is that imagine if somebody is doing a new NFT scam, if somebody is doing a new cryptocurrency scam. Logan Paul decides, you know what? MILF coin wasn't enough. I'm going to make a new cryptocurrency scam even on top of that. And with dislikes disabled, the perception of that scam is going to be good because people are only going to see the likes. So the perception is going to be, wow, it seems like a lot of people like this because there's a bunch of people that like it. And a lot of people that don't really understand the way the website works and the culture around it, they're not going to understand that, well, it only has this many likes and that many views, and they think like, oh, that's a bad ratio or something like that, because they're only going to see the likes. And it actually creates a way for content creators to scam their audience with less accountability. And also, it's not just scam their audience, it's take advantage of their audience. It's people like, I used this example earlier, like Arcadum. I think Arcadum's a great example of this. Arcadum was recently exposed, like a couple of months ago or something like that. Arcadum got exposed for being an abuser, being a manipulator, and just in general being a fucking creep towards women. And Arcadum could now go to YouTube and remove all of the negative comments about himself, remove the dislike bar from his videos, and be able to keep making content like nothing ever happened. And there's no way for people to really hold him accountable for that, because the dislike bar was a small way for an audience to hold a content creator accountable for their actions, for better or for worse. Sometimes it was worse, most of the times it was better. And the truth is that whenever you have a content creator like Arcadum, and I'm just using him as an example, like you could use someone like Fedmeister or even like Method Josh. These people can now create content on a new platform and completely control the narrative around that, how that content is perceived on that platform. And what does this really do? What this really does is it means that a new person, you know, let's say another new girl, is going to see Arcadum's content, and she's going to think to herself, oh, well, he's kind of nice, he's cool. I guess I'll go ahead and maybe talk to him and maybe join his D&D group. And it actually makes it easier for these abusers to take advantage of people, because YouTube has now silenced the content creators and not content creators, excuse me, the audience from holding them accountable. You see what I'm saying? Everybody forgot about Giant Waffle drama now? It's really hard to hold somebody, like the Giant Waffle stuff was really hard to say, like, oh, he did that for sure, because there was no court case, there wasn't really any evidence. She said he did it, he said he didn't do it. I don't want to deal with that, you know? I don't know if he's guilty or not. I'm certainly not a court of law. Like, there's some things, like, basically, like, with certain people, I'm more willing to accept the assumption that they're guilty based off of how they behave. And, like, this is just the truth, right? Like, if somebody acts like a fucking creep regularly, I'm gonna be more likely to assume that they're being a creep. If I hear that. But, for example, I think Swifty's a good example, right? Like, whenever Swifty had accusations levied against him, I've just assumed that they were probably bullshit because, you know, I have a better understanding of the moral character of Swifty versus the moral character of Giant Waffle. Now, obviously, I mean, you have priests and Boy Scout leaders and everything that are, you know, everything. I think we all know those stereotypes. So, of course, this can happen to anybody. And, of course, the people with good moral character, it can always just be a facade. And it's important to keep that in mind. But I think that it's definitely a better way to look at things than to just assume everybody's guilty or anybody's innocent. There's a little bit of critical thinking that can go into play, and I think it makes decisions a little bit easier. So portfolios can get away with murder while appearing as being accepted? No, I think that's not... I think that is the main reason. I think the main reason is pressure from brands and political organizations to create and astroturf a positive environment for their propaganda to be received in. I think that's the prime reason why YouTube is doing it. I don't think it has anything to do with keeping content creators safe. I don't think it has anything to do with anything else. It is purely by creating a safe space for brands and political ideologues to push certain agendas and certain narratives with no ability to push back against them. I think also, like, for example, there's a lot of people that, and like I'm kind of the same way with this, I think a lot of you guys probably are, where like whenever you're reading an article and the article seems like the person's just completely fucking insane, And many of you guys, this is what I do at least, is you'll go to the comment section and like the highest upvoted comment usually is exactly what you're thinking. And you're like, okay, thank God I'm not the only one. But not having that solidarity with other people and knowing that other people think the same thing that you do, it makes it easier to control the person's mind and to create a narrative. Does that make sense? Top comment on bad videos will become a dislike video? Dislike button? No, why would that be the case? If that was the case, people could just delete the comment. You know content creators can delete YouTube comments, right? So, like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, I've seen a couple of people make that opinion, but if you want to, you can just delete negative comments. And you can also make it to where comments have to be approved before they go onto the video. Or turn them off completely. I think turning them off completely, so there's something that's much more powerful about having only positive feedback versus not having any feedback. You see what I'm saying? So if you disable all feedback, I think that's going to give a different impression to people versus disabling, only having positive feedback. For sure, yeah. Yeah, that's what I think. My opinion, this is how world is moving out of freedom of speech in the future, which is scary. Well, in general, and this is not always true, but I think that especially with a lot of these governmental agencies and these people and these, international corporations, the less freedom of speech the people have, the more that those people can take advantage of the people. So anything to limit the people's expression or ability to express themselves or collectively think together or bargain for anything at all is going to be something that's a threat to them. I think it's an unironic version of if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to fear, where it's generally people that are opposing being able to freely talk about ideas are people that have bad ideas. Because if their ideas would rise to the top on their own, they wouldn't be afraid of the free marketplace of ideas. That wouldn't bother them at all because they knew they would come out ahead. Now, obviously it can be more complex, right? Populism, etc. Sure. But I think as a general rule, this is the case. Inherently interactive platform. The whole point is comments and likes. Without it, just watch the mainstream media. Well, this is like what Bill O'Reilly would do, right? Back in the 90s, is he'd like, somebody would like bring up a counterpoint that would make him mad. Even if they were wrong, he'd just cut off their mic. Right? But sometimes the person would bring up something that makes Bill O'Reilly look stupid, and he cuts their mic and kicks them off the show, and that's it. And that's just the way it goes. It's about banning criticism from public space? No. It's about banning criticism of narratives from public space. The actual criticism itself, these brands don't... Do you think these brands care about if somebody gets bullied on YouTube? Nobody cares about that. Doesn't matter to them. They care about selling their stupid little trinkets. Yeah, they want to control the narrative. Small minority has a bigger voice than the majority sometimes, which is weird. You'll find that when you really think about things, most of the time the minority actually has a larger voice than the majority. In voting, many times most people don't vote in elections. I think the 2020 election, was kind of an exception. But in many cases, most adults, as far as I know, do not vote. So the president is being decided by something that is clearly a minority. And especially whenever you take the concentric circles of not only is it just people that are voting, but half of the people that are voting that did vote didn't want the guy who won to win. So you're really having a president who is approved by maybe only 30% or voted for by maybe only 30 or 20% of the whole population of the country, and this person's running the whole thing. Not running the whole thing, right, but like their president. And then if you talk about like wealth, I mean, I think we all know, like, I was a big Bernie Sanders fan. Not with everything, don't get ahead of yourself, but with this I was. Like, I'll tell you one thing, that if we had universal health care, if we had better infrastructure, and we had public elections that were not funded at all by lobbyists, I, as somebody who is in the top tax bracket, would have no trouble paying 70% taxes. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Money doesn't, it's like, it's not a thing. I would. Well, you wouldn't, because you probably wouldn't pay 70% because you probably don't make that much money. And if you would, you can live off of the money that's left over. Trust me. People live outside of their means and they live lavishly. Decadence is decay. %, is disgusting. I'm in the opinion that tax is theft, though. Well, doesn't theft imply ownership? And if ownership is a construct that's created per society inside of the construct of society itself, then wouldn't society have the authority to determine what ownership is? So taxation would not be able to be theft, because the ownership of having things is defined by by the same thing that's defining theft. So it's clearly not theft. Ownership is totally abstract. Yeah, ownership is a human construct. You don't own anything. It's just something that the government tells you you have. If there's no government to tell you that you own something, trust me, you probably won't own it for very long. Eminent domain. Yeah, they just take your shit and that's it. That's the way it goes. Exactly true. I think it is exactly true, but it's not morally true. You can make an argument that it's not a morally true thing, but I think that it is a technically true thing. But yeah, I've always been of the like, obviously I believe in private property and all these things, of course, right? You should have a right to your property. But I think that you need to also remember that all property that you own and everything that you have is an outcome of being a product of your society. And I think that paying back into that society with the things that you have obtained through that system itself is not unrealistic and is not theft at all. And as I said before, I try to save as much money as I can on my taxes without really going overboard. But I would have no problem if the tax rate was much higher for people that made a lot of money. As somebody who makes a lot of money, it wouldn't really matter to me. 70% is way too much. What would you say if I told you that 70% actually has been, in some ways, a tax rate before for extremely wealthy people? And they were able to live and society was fine. We've had like 90% or so. Yeah, it's just like, I think that the entire narrative that your mind has created is like, so in sales, this is actually really interesting. I never thought about this. So in sales, there's an idea of an anchoring price. Now, an anchoring price is something that you create in order to give the person that you're selling something to the perception that that is the average. And that way, whenever you reduce it below that price, you artificially increase their expectations and they have the perception that they're getting a good deal. And I think that media and, like large, I don't know, like elites, right? Whatever you want to call them, have done a very good job in creating an anchor around 30 to 35%, 20, like somewhere around like 20 to 40% taxes. This is the anchor point in which society's narrative around a person's like tax responsibility exists in. You see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily something that is it's not necessarily something that is true. It's just something that has been ingrained into the mind of the person. And I think also there's been a lot of deliberate messaging that's been made to make people believe that they're on the same side as a person who makes $20 million a year with an issue like this, which they're just not. When people that pay that much in taxes bitch about it and don't want to have to pay that much in taxes. Yeah, I get that. 70%, someone with hundreds of millions of dollars doesn't leave much. Doesn't leave them much without live comfortably. If you're making $1 million a year and you're taxed at 70%, you can live extremely comfortably every single year, even if you have a family. And like obviously like what do you call it? Like that's just a number I threw out there. Obviously it would probably scale up much higher than that. But I think that's in general what it would come down to. 70 isn't realistic, my 30-40%. More, I think, is really what would matter to me. But yeah. Got him. Bitch. Everybody still goes. I'm sleeping a little bit. Who are you to say what dictates what people define comfortable? I'm not anybody. The thing is, like, there's no, you can't make definitions. Of course you can. Definitions, there are no real, like, definitions but language is a construct, and definitions are part of language. So they're a construct on their own. Like one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that everything's made up and nothing's real. All of the ideas and concepts and ethics and morals that you have in your head, these are all just human concepts. This is not something that exists in nature. This is not something that is written on like a stone by God. These are just things that people have thought up that generally make life go better. Even time itself, in a way, is an abstract concept. So whenever you really break things down and you want to say, like, who are you to define something? Well, you're nobody. But neither is the definition itself. It's all made up. Don't regret slowly living comfortably is an opinion. It is, and I think that I think that you have to be able to agree on certain things and certain levels of like common sense. So like for somebody like Kim Kardashian, maybe Kim Kardashian can't live comfortably on $10 million a year, right? She needs 20 or 30. But just because somebody is somebody's opinion of something is one thing or another does not necessarily mean that that's what it should be. Should be taken seriously. Right? You don't donate anything yourself? No, I don't donate anything. And I shouldn't have to. Like, the thing is, the reason, this is why I say that taxes should have to, you should have to have taxes. Because I don't donate money at all, right? Like, why would I do that? Most of the time the government just wastes my money. I don't expect people to do the right thing. People need to be forced into doing the right thing. And if they're not forced into doing the right thing, they'll do the wrong thing. I think that's what really is going to happen. Who decides what's the right thing? The people that you elect to government. Like I think those kinds of questions are like leading questions that are implying some degree of like you know, there's like no abstract, and like you're right, like you just make a decision on what the right thing is with everybody. That's the way it goes. How do you define what's right? You get together and decide. The same as everything else. Yeah, it's not that hard. You said forced? Yeah. Majority agrees on what's right. That's always how it's been. Yeah. It's not that complex or hard to understand at all. I think people usually just put forward a it's like a fake problem. It's like, oh, nobody understands, nobody's on the same page. I think 90% of people are on the same page with a lot of things. Not 90% tax. No, I don't think so. All laws are backed up by threats of violence. Yeah, all like, yeah, laws, like the reason why something's a law is because if you don't do it, you go to jail. Right? Or like the government will like punish you for not doing it. That's just the way the world works. Shit. Surprised I haven't hit him. Tyranny by majority? I mean, I would rather have tyranny by majority than tyranny by a minority, right? I mean, and also, like, the problem is that something is like a majority or a minority is not fundamentally good or bad, and there needs to be like a certain degree of ways for people to like determine whether good and bad decisions and like who's able to make a decision and who's not, right? It's like the same reason why you don't let like a 5-year-old vote is because they just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Of course that's a problem. Plenty of adults don't know either. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really big problem. I remember reading in school and this is when I was in high school, so this is like, 400 years ago, that 42% of voters are single issue voters, which means that they vote for something based off of one thing, and that's it. Number sounds too low. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Got him finally, holy shit. How do you feel about people who willfully abstain from voting? I think that it's like in the US, like I hate the way voting works. I don't blame anybody from like abstaining from voting. I think like if you complain, like for example, like let's say like you didn't vote in the last presidential election and you wish Trump would have won and you're mad that Biden won. I think you're an idiot. Because, like, if you didn't want that to happen, maybe you should have fucking voted, right? Or the one before then, you're like, well, I'm mad that Trump won, but I didn't vote for Hillary. Well, that's the way it goes. It's like if you had a preference between the two and then you chose not to vote. Like, yeah, that's dumb. But overall, I think there's a huge problem with, like, with voting, and if you're voting on something and you're basically stuck between two bad choices. Like last time we had a big election here, like this 2020 presidential election, Biden was like not even in the top 3 inside of like the Democratic primary, and they basically just kind of forced him in there against the will of the people. I think it's very common that happens. Somebody Biden would have won, and that's why. I don't really think so. And I think also like that decision and who should be elected and everything like that, I don't think that should be decided by a group of Democratic elites, strategizers. It should be decided by the actual constituents and the voters. Some people in certain states will vote certain ways, party rendering your vote moot with the Electoral College. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's bad. I don't know, like, the thing is that, as I said, like, it's like if you didn't vote and you're mad that the other guy didn't win, then, like, yeah, it's dumb, because you should have tried to at least vote, right? Of course. And, like, yeah, I guess if you're in, like, a state that's, like, there's no way you're even gonna have your vote really effectively counted because of the way it's set up, then, yeah, I can see that makes sense. But just overall, I think it's important to try to vote. Some say no chance of winning. You should only vote if you're educated. No, I think so too. The problem with like making a voting test is there's like never a way. Like every time they've tried to do it before, there's just been like somebody with an agenda behind it that's tried to turn it into some bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why we don't have one, is because every time that's had to happen, they've tried to do that. Somebody's tried to take advantage of it for like their own opinion. But yeah, I think that if you don't know what you're talking about with voting and you don't understand the issues, right? And I mean, you don't have to be like a political science major to understand this, but you have to have like just a general working knowledge. I don't think you should vote. No. Like, I think that, like, for example, like any of the, where like you can just go to the ballot and vote like straight ticket, like all Democrats or all Republicans, I don't even think that should be an option. Like, you don't even really know who you're voting for. That's an option in the US? Yeah, it is. Shouldn't be one. System with more than two parties would diversify discussion positively, just make it worse. It doesn't matter. Like, I think it'd make it better, like, for sure. But the only reason it would really make it better, in my opinion, is because it would kind of separate power. But I don't think that really matters, because everybody that would be part of the power structure in general would still have the same goals. So just by acting in their own self-interest, the same thing would happen. But yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, like, you know, like, my gut reaction is like, yeah, we need more than two parties. But I don't really know if that would really fix it or not. I think it's a better solution than just sticking with what we have, right? I think it's probably better than just doing the same shit over and over. But I think, like, there's been a couple of times in, like, history where they've done multiple parties. They had the, like, Bull Moose Party, the Whig Party. What were some of the other ones that they did back in the day? Ross Perot, yeah. Whigs, yeah, I got that one. Elephant Party. The Pirate Party. That was a legitimate thing, but it wasn't, like, really substantial. Forward with Andrew Yang. Yeah, but, like, that hasn't really gained a lot of momentum. Like, I follow Andrew Yang on Twitter. Like, I saw he was doing that. But, like, I'm talking about things that had, like, you know, like, significance. Maybe it will in the future, but just right now it hasn't. Coalition of parties just spreads the power more. Seems to work better in the EU. I don't know. Like, I don't live in the EU. I have no idea. You're a healer now? No. I'm just leveling up my staff, man. That's it. Pretty big in parts of Europe, legit in Congress, mayors, even presidents. I always thought it was a meme thing, like from like 2012. Did you invest in crypto or stay away from it? As I said before, I'm not a very strong believer in crypto. I think something has to have like some inherent value or intrinsic value attached to it in order for it to have any sort of meaning. And I think that a lot of people that buy crypto and invest in it are just kind of doing it because they think it's worth money rather than like them actually believing in it fundamentally. US dollar. Well, I know that some people that are like big fans of crypto like try to draw that comparison, but I don't really think that's a fair comparison because the US dollar is effectively backed up by the economic power of the United States. And gold. I don't think we've been on the gold standard for a long time. Can't print bitcoins. You're right. Well, you can in a way. I think a currency's value goes up and down based off of how much confidence people have in it, more than anything. Oh, currency ended in 1933. Yeah, I thought it was recent because, like, didn't Andrew Jackson bring it back and then they got rid of it again? I don't know. It was a long time ago. I don't remember. Printing something doesn't make it valuable. Yeah. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of confidence in cryptocurrency. I think that it really just takes... I think governments will ban it, and then it'll go back to being something that's used just pretty much by drug dealers. That's my opinion. You can't ban it? Of course you can ban it. Why can you not ban it? It's already banned in China? Yeah. Now, I remember whenever the ban happened in China, didn't Bitcoin's value go down a lot? It did? Yeah, I remember it went down quite a bit. I think that the US will probably try to ban it under the guise of environmentalism. That it like causes a lot of pollution and stuff like that, and because of that they have to ban it. That's what I think is going to happen. Don't know how risky all the money in it is. Yeah, I think it's pretty risky. Most cryptos are moving away from proof of work. Well, I don't really think that, like, this is like a very... I think you're intellectualizing a very simple idea. If no institution can legitimately accept cryptocurrency as payment for something, and any use of cryptocurrency is illegal, that would clearly make it less valuable. And that could easily happen. Like, let's say a company does that. Like, if it was illegal for, let's say, Tesla to take cryptocurrency, then that would absolutely... That's absolutely something the government could do. Is to say that you cannot take cryptocurrency for any sort of payment in the United States. And this would be something that every company, every institution would have to abide by. Sleep gang. Yeah, I know. I need to sleep soon. Basic idea is just mint the ledger. It's more trustworthy. If it's outlawed, you're right. Yeah, and I think that if you, if what you place value in is able, you can just do that, right? Like the government can just make it illegal. And there's no, like it has no bargaining power, right? Cryptocurrency is on a fundamental level decentralized, so there's no real way to advocate for it in a meaningful way. It's completely vulnerable to something like that happening. What do you think of NFTs? I think that NFTs... So whenever I say NFT, you guys think of stupid pictures of monkeys. Right? You don't think of blockchain technology. You don't think of anything other than stupid pictures of monkeys and influencer scams and stuff like that. I don't think that NFTs are fundamentally bad, but I think that the practice of buying and selling these imager links, basically these JPEGs for thousands of dollars, is effectively just the same as the Beanie Baby craze back in the 90s. And if the same people were, I mean, I'm sure people that probably bought Beanie Babies then are buying NFTs now. Even less, it's not even physical, yeah. It's like something like that has no intrinsic value. And its value is completely just based off of the confidence of it. You got traditional art. I think if you want to get into, like, is an NFT the same thing as like a Picasso painting? No, I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's just a complete oversimplification. Digital artists keep money after getting traded to other people. Holy fuck. Real chunk and bored monkey shit is so dumb. Yeah, exactly. I don't think that it has any sort of value at all. I think that the value is completely fake. I think it's just created by people that are trying to make money. It says imaginary's value of paint randomly placed over canvas. Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying, right? Is like, I just think that's it's an intellectually dishonest oversimplification. How? Like, where do you even begin? Is it because it was painted by somebody who, you know, was like a brilliant painter? Is it an oversimplification because one is a physical object and the other one is not? I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I can just screenshot the bitch. Yeah, exactly. Like, basically the value of owning something that exists on the blockchain. Like, I don't even really fully understand a lot of this stuff. So this is what I've said before, is like, I have a very layman's understanding of a lot of this crypto stuff. So whenever, like, I feel like it's fake, obviously this is, of course, in context of me not being incredibly educated or anything like that in it. So I'd have to obviously know more about it. But based off of my understanding, I don't think it has any value at all. It's extremely fragile, and it has no real value. You're very wrong about it. I can't see how a picture of something that it, like, I just don't think so, man. As in using gold to pay? Well, gold has like an actual value. I don't think most people understand NFTs. Yeah, sure. What if you think about it like an autograph? I mean, this is like the same stuff, right? And, I think a lot of things, like, you know, Pokemon cards or whatever, these things are not considered valuable by most people. And there are some people that really think they're super valuable, but most people don't think they have any value at all. And like, of course, like the value itself is all, it's all made up, right? This is just like based off of what people think it's worth. So, a lot of things have a certain degree of, like, let's say, like value to people, but if there's people, like, I think people always care about NFTs to some degree, but I don't think that they're just going to continuously become more and more valuable. Value is what people will pay the most. Yeah, exactly. And I think at a certain point, once something like this runs its course, people will eventually stop paying money for something like that because its resale value is going to be low. Opinion on Metaverse? I don't understand it really that well to really have an opinion on it, to be honest with you. God damn. Once you value, people start real IDs, passports, property registers, avoid forgery. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, that's something that has actual value. But a picture of a monkey, nobody cares about that. Except for other people with pictures of monkeys. And if they want to sell those things to each other for a lot of money, they can do that. But that doesn't mean that it has any sort of, like, intrinsic value. It's kind of like the public in general, like people in general, like a lot of things people don't really take seriously in a lot of ways. And I think that's just not really going to change a whole lot. Definition of a bubble? Yeah, I think so. Ever been in the elite zone? Looks so good. Oh yeah, I've been in everywhere in the game. Blockchain isn't the monetary value, but the technology. What's this here? The actual comment. Behind it can benefit us. Roy said NFT and crypto becoming like casino chips. Yeah, I mean the technology is good, but saying the technology is good is very different than saying that something that's produced from the technology is good or has value because it's produced from the technology. Most people won't take it seriously. Spending ridiculous amount of money on JPEG isn't worth anyone taking seriously. Yeah, I think so too. When you own one of the monkey NFTs, you get invited to exclusive parties. It's like a cult for rich people. Well, after they buy the NFT, they're not going to be rich anymore. Like, didn't Train spend like 300K on his? That's a lot. And it's like, of course they want to like get together and like all fucking like... It's like they don't want to have people tell them that, you know, they're wrong. So like they have to get together and have, you know, little support groups for each other, telling each other that, no, you didn't just spend $200,000 on a picture. Of course they're going to have parties. I'd want to have a support group after that too. I feel like a fucking moron. Oak shelf. Dynamic NFTs being tied to a weapon that changes with leveling and MMO and WoW is very interesting. I don't know how much real value that has. Sort of saying digital stuff will be more and more valued with time, including time. Same way you waste hours running transmog. Why can't digital art have a price? I think digital art can have a price. But if people, I don't really, I don't see people buying into it. I don't see it being continued by the government. I mean, I think that, again, a lot of the value in NFTs is conflated with the value in the technology that is used to create NFTs. So because the technology is very valuable and very good, then the things created by the technology are valuable and good, and that's not necessarily true. The loose definition of art, yeah, exactly. NFTs look like Gorilla concept art from 2005, yeah. Values in the artist. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Not seeing people buying into it. Don't see most people buying fine art, but they still do. There's millions going through NFTs daily. What's your opinion on the difference? Is it fine art was created by an artist that has value in itself, right? It's like the difference between, what's the difference between something that was printed out on a printer versus something that was created by a famous artist. Even though it's the same picture, one of them just has way more value because of who created it. And that's what I was saying before, right? It's like saying something has a lot of value because it was printed on a printer, and printers are really cool technology. I don't really think that's true. So if an artist does an NFT of a good piece of art, that's okay. Sure, but the difference between owning the art and owning a picture of the art is much smaller. And I think that, like, once you have something that's an actual physical object, it creates a completely different level of value for people. Like, I don't think people are going to care a whole lot about the physical value of like a, let's say, like a random fucking thing, sure, but in general, like, you can see it, you can touch it, like, you know that it's real, and the difference between something that's fake and something that's real can be smaller, or sorry, is larger. Whereas, like, with an NFT, you know, your picture of this picture is fundamentally the same thing. There's nothing that's unique about the NFT itself. You see what I'm saying? Unknown artist work going for more than some of the famous arts today. What about that take? It depends on what it is. I think the art does have, like, a certain level of intrinsic value, and to many people it doesn't have that value. And, like, you're also, like, always talking, like, with all types of, like, collector items and everything like that, you're always talking about something that doesn't really have any sort of, like, real functional value. Like, gold has functional value. You can use gold to make things, and that, you know, gold has, like, other types of, like, you know, uses, like actual uses. And NFTs don't have any of that. But yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, it's always, like, the value of art and entertainment in general is it's always relative. Like, I'm curious, and this is, like, an honest question. Can somebody create one point of difference between NFTs and Beanie Babies? Like, what's one point of difference between, like, an NFT versus a Beanie Baby? One's physical? Yeah, I mean, like, of course, right? But, like, in terms of its value. Yeah, besides it being physical. I should have said that. NFTs will not be enforced for copyright due to massive volume, but some artworks actually have their high value retained. I don't know about that. Immutable consensus ownership. Owning something that's not real. Can you really own something that's not real? You know, there's no, like, manifestation of it, right? Like, if you have, like, there's times, like, you have money in the bank, right? And you've never received the dollar bills, but you can receive the dollar bills, right? So, like, if you own something and there's, like, it's not real, you can't really redeem it for anything, It's only worth what somebody will pay for it. You see what I'm saying? You know anything the court says you can own? Well, I think this is the value that a person places in it. Point of Gold in Warcraft, no one argued that Warcraft Gold is real. Yeah. You don't own Steam games, read the UI. Yeah, there's most games you'd no longer own, which I don't know how they let them get away with that, but they do. Indie games, yeah. I think if you buy a game, you should have, like, I feel like the consumer's rights for owning video games have gone basically down to zero, and nobody seems to care. The entire part of NFT is to be able to prove digital ownership. Why these collectibles representing the technology behind them are worth so much. Very end, very few large collectibles will survive. Technology behind NFTs will have massive implications last 10 years. Well, this is what I was saying before, right? Just because you have a sheet of paper that was printed out by one of the first printers, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's worth a lot of money. But there are certain things that are. Like, for example, like some of the first books ever written or things like that do have value because they're some of the first of whatever they are. But as a general rule, just something created by something else's technology does not necessarily mean that the thing created has value. NFT ownership is not enforceable or legal. What I'm saying is, like, there's not like a place you can go to like redeem an NFT, right? It's just all made up. Games have value? Oh, I think so, to a degree, yeah. It's like a certificate saying you own the moon. Yeah. Yeah, it's about right. I don't know. I probably should think. I'll think about it more, since this is such like a hot topic. I'll probably spend more time thinking about why I don't really think they're gonna have value, or maybe I'll think more about it and change my mind. But yeah, I place little to no value in any cryptocurrency or NFT. Market says you're wrong. Yeah, well, you could have said the same thing in the 90s about Beanie Babies. There's a lot of things that people think have value for a period of time, and then they stop having value because people think they don't have value anymore. And because they have no intrinsic value to back them up, they have no functional value, they just simply exist, the value disappears. And I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of cryptocurrency, and also a lot of NFTs. Deliver anything, I just design virtual form, get paid a lot for instant pictures. Is that my work does not have value then? I guess if it changed my work. You're a house designer, you design things visually. No, because the visualization itself has value. So what you're saying is, like, the visualization of like helping somebody make a house, like I think that's just like a million fucking times different than having a picture of a monkey. Like, I mean, you're really gonna say that helping somebody design a house digitally is the same thing as saying that a picture of a monkey has no value? Like, I mean, if that's what you got out of what I said, I think that you're probably just looking for something to argue about, not necessarily thinking about it. Hunter's Bitcoin was a way to counter inflation. Lost 5%. Yeah, I've heard about that. So critical says people go out of the way to get scammed. No, the thing is, everybody is addicted to the idea of being the next person that, you know, like investing in Google in 1999 or, you know, buying Bitcoin in 2010 or whatever, right? There's a lot of people out there that want to be the next person that takes advantage of the craze that's going to happen in 10 years. It's basically FOMO on an extreme. And I think that's really where it comes from. It's not that people want to lose money, it's the opposite, is that people are dumb and they think that they're going to make money. Yeah, people, yeah, everybody wants to make money without having to work. I mean, that's just, I mean, the most popular job that kids want to be nowadays is a YouTuber or online influencer. I hate the word influencer. Yeah, I do too, because it implies that people don't have their own, they don't have their own agency to think for themselves. I, in general, don't like the trend that I think a lot of people have kind of adopted, that people that do things because content creators tell them to do something like that is, those people are not responsible for their actions, or it's the content creator's fault that somebody does something stupid. You want to be an influencer because it takes your effort. Being a good YouTuber is actually more difficult. It's an actual job called being an entertainer. Most people that are any form of an influencer at all have to put some work into it. I think there's a lot of people that say that it takes no work or there's no effort involved into it. I think that they say that primarily just to cope with the fact that they're not in that position. Because if they say it takes no work or it's super easy or something like that, they can rationalize why they don't have it themselves. Because if it's just something that you get lucky and you have no control over the outcome, you don't have to feel bad whenever it doesn't happen to you because you just didn't get lucky. You see what I'm saying? With this real quick. I could do it too. Yeah, exactly. I think that's very common. Oh, damn. I always loot these for the vials. Streamers run gaming. I don't really think so. I think the people that think that are just stupid boomers. NFT has amazing application. And this is what I've said before, right? Is the technology behind NFTs does not mean that what's generated through that technology has inherent value because of the technology behind it. I think that's the misunderstanding people have. I wouldn't take care. I don't like money. Waste money on monkey pictures. No, don't worry, I won't. Values and exclusivity. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people only have one of, right? Like, for example, you can go to like a thrift store and you'll see like, you know, Miss Williams fucking 3rd grade class Bible study, and there's not really that many of those in the world, but they don't really have a lot of value because they're at the thrift store. Or, you know, the 2018 Baptist Church revival, you know, where everybody ate watermelons together, or they went and fucking had fun together, like went to a party or went to a pool together. Like, nobody gives a shit. So just because something is exclusive or there's not a lot of them doesn't necessarily mean that it has any value. What do I think it takes to become a better streamer influencer? Somebody in a position. I think that one of the important things that a lot of content creators do wrong is that they think that being popular on the internet or something like that makes them I think this is a problem with a lot of different things, not just content creation, but people that believe that their expertise or their understanding in one field makes them an expert or smart in other fields. So like, for example, somebody who's really good at and it's not Dunning-Kruger, right? Because that's different. This is whenever you have somebody who is really good at something, and then they take that thing that they're really, really, really good at, and then they assume that because they're really good at that thing, that they're smart, and that intelligence will just carry over to other things too. You see what I'm saying? Actors do this all the time in politics. Yeah. You see this all the time where there's like an actor, like some popular actor that's giving out, you know, Facebook mom level takes on politics, and people are taking it seriously and are really dramatic about it. And this person has been, you know, told their whole life and everything that, you know, they're smart and, you know, they're different than other people, and they're, you know, I think being different is somehow like an extension of being better than other people in an abstract way. And then it fucks with their head and they start to have an opinion about everything. And think that people stop looking at entertainers for leadership. Asking BRD 2019. Was that really true? No, that's a good one. Jennifer Lawrence talking about global warming and then going to the interview on a private plane. Well, I think it's just you can stop at Jennifer Lawrence talking about global warming. The odds are she doesn't know anything about it. Like, you probably know about how much she knows about it. It's a misuse of position. Like, maybe she knows a lot about it, maybe she has a background in science, etc. But I think that in many cases, a lot of the people that are talking about this stuff don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. I think that you do have like certain celebrities and things like that that do actually promote noble causes and positive causes, for sure. But what I'm saying is that, like, if a person like that is talking about, you know, an issue, I wouldn't really take it seriously because they're popular, right? It's like their opinion is just as good as yours. Just because they can, you know, play pretend in a movie or sing really well doesn't mean that they understand the political climate of Europe. That's what I'm saying. See me 1v1,000 by those Minecraft kids? Bro, like, I saw that shit, dude. Like, I don't even know what the fuck happened. Like, they said that you didn't, like, pay some artist, and, like, I saw it got complicated, and I just noped the fuck out of that, bro. I got bodied. Bro, like, it's so exhausting having to deal with people like that. That's crazy. Train was in the right, Twitter's lame. Yeah. It's just like... like, the narratives are just so weird. Postable screenshots, and I got caught lying about the payment. Yeah, of course. And it's like the worst thing about it, dude, is like you're gonna have people like Train, you know this, right? Like in 2 years, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, it's like whenever Train didn't pay that one artist. And they're always gonna fucking believe it, dude. That's the worst part. Is that, like, even though you fucking proved them right, like you fucking know that, right, bro? Like, yeah, 100% that shit's gonna happen. It's so annoying. Okay, so you complain you didn't get paid after not winning a contest? There's a lot of times where people will misrepresent something and try to, you know, stress somebody out for that reason. And try to, like, you know, like, oh, well, if you don't give me the money for this, I'm gonna say you didn't pay me, etc. It's like the end of the contest didn't win. Yeah, I fucking want a participation trophy with her pussies. I mean, I think that they're a little bit too young to have their hair colored without it being with their parents' permission in a lot of those cases, let's be honest. It's just fucking... it's fucking annoying, man. Because, like, they do that to feel smart. So, like, if you make them feel stupid, they'll get mad. Like, if you assert what's true, they'll get mad at you because if they find out that they're wrong, they'll feel stupid. Sleep today? Yeah, I don't know why I haven't gone to bed. It's just what I do, man. Like, I naturally just stay up later and later and later, and it's really stupid. And, like, the worst thing about it is I know it's stupid as it's happening. It's like I'm fucking up right now, and I know I'm fucking up, and I'm just gonna keep doing it. Sam, yeah, bro. Fried. Hate whenever fun ends. I know, dude. You just keep going. You just keep fucking going. Push your sleep schedule so far back it's normal again. Yeah, I don't really plan on doing. Hopefully it's not going to be like that. But yeah, people get so... They get so caught up in, like, trying to be right about something that they care more about being right than actually knowing what's true. And, like, that's always one of the shitty things is, like, whenever, like, controversy happens with somebody, a lot of times, like, Like, I'll give you an example. There was one time, like, something got clipped out of context whenever I told like a viewer they didn't matter because they weren't like a popular content creator, and it got clipped out of context and it got put on LSF. And like I don't really ever like, there's like other content creators that they'll like message mods to like take down negative threads about themselves. Like I've never done that ever, to have somebody take down a negative thread if they're misleading or something like that, right? And somebody sees that and they think that I was talking about it in like a vacuum. But like really what the person said is they said that like I don't matter because I'm a content creator, and that like I was talking about like games reserving names for streamers, which has been something I've been pretty outspoken that I think is something that games should do for a number of reasons, not just as like a protection for the streamer, but also for viewers, because you know, viewers get scammed by somebody saying they're a streamer because they stole the streamer's name or something like that, you know? It's very common. And yeah, it stops scams. It also like it holds streamers accountable too. Like if they do something bad, it's like, hey, this was you. So basically like what I was advocating for was you know, I think that they should have like creator verification programs, and then the developer works with the streamer to come up with a name that streamer will use that's reflective of their brand. Maybe not necessarily the specific name with like something like Ninja. Maybe it is, right? It's up to them to decide. But just overall, I think that's something that's more healthy for a game, because oftentimes, like for me, whenever I got my name stolen in Classic WoW, like a bunch of people took like variants of my name, of course, and they tried to sell them back to me for like thousands of dollars. And I don't think this is something that's good for the platform. Yeah. Only dummies get scammed by people they don't know. Yeah. But I think that if you get scammed, like here's so let's follow that logic. There's a lot of people that are dumb, right? And if you're dumb and you're getting scammed by people whenever you're playing this game, the odds are your experience is going to be worse inside of that game whenever somebody scams you in the game, right? So what the developer is really doing is they're creating a point of vulnerability that their users have to deal with that could potentially make them quit the game. That's fundamentally what would happen. Having a Swiftian Classic name got reserved every single server. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that I don't think people that are reserving Swifty's name are I don't think that's good for the game. Twitch should create API for streamers' names. The devs want to reserve names for streamers. They should do so. I think it should just be between the developer and the publisher or whoever, and the streamer. And some games might not want to do that. Some games do. I think that it's a positive. But anyway, it's complex. It's not really that complex, but overall, I just think that it does more harm than good by allowing people to reserve streamers' names in video games. I think that it just creates a lot of problems, and I can get into that more. Doesn't really matter, but anyway. So I made a comment about that. Was what I was obviously talking about, and so it wasn't that necessarily I was better than that person. It was more that because I'm a streamer and this is something that had to do with streamers versus people that are not, I would be unique in this circumstance. But of course, like a post like that will ignore that context because the context makes it boring. Because it's like, oh, well, that makes sense, you know? Sure. But like the comment that explained it, in like I think the comment section for that post, you know, like gets seen by a handful of people. But the thing that people remember is the fact that Asmongold said that he was better than somebody else because he's a streamer, even though that's not, it had nothing to do with it. It was just intentional misrepresentation. It's the same thing with like articles that are written about streamers that intentionally misunderstand them or intentionally draw a conclusion that they're not trying to make in order to push some form of an agenda. That was about how streamers should get priority in queue time, especially on new game release. It's both, right? I said this before. I think streamers, like in a game like in PoE, it's more complicated because like this is what the context was, because it's like a game with like a ladder system and everything. But I think that in general, like with something like New World, for example, I think streamers should get priority queue. Yeah, or on launch they should have. Absolutely. I think it's just it's smart. The only reason devs don't do that is the cost of PR. I always think that it's a mistake in order to, if you ever have to appeal, so like for example, you will take a PR hit a lot of times on Twitch if you defend your girlfriend from people that are abusive to her, because you'll be seen as a simp. I think it's extremely important to never take the opinions of unreasonable people seriously. And if you ever take the opinions of an unreasonable person seriously, you too become unreasonable. Taking medical advice from Joe Rogan. Yeah, I understand that you're trying to like talk about like your political issue or whatever, but I don't really care about it, to be honest. Anyway, so the issue is who decides what's reasonable. If the majority decides, the minority is unreasonable. There was a time where most people in the world thought the earth was flat. And at the rate things are going, there might be another time in the future where people think the same thing. But in general, just because the majority thinks something doesn't mean that they're right. And there has to be some degree of curation around that. That's what I was saying before, like why you don't let 5-year-olds vote. People knew the earth was around for hundreds of years. Yeah, the Greeks discovered it. But it doesn't mean that they didn't think it was flat. The Germans were ignorant, bro. They landed the Earth circumference using trig and shadows. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I didn't say that they were stupid. Is that one I think every time to defend their conspiracy theories? Well, the thing is, like, you can't use every line of thinking for every single situation. And it depends on what you're talking about. Conceived it was round, I had no other context to believe it was. Well, who knows? But like, all I'm saying is truth is not a democracy, and I think that There are a lot of cases where unreasonable things happen because the majority of people think that it's not unreasonable. And I think that the way that happens is whenever you have reasonable people who just go along with it because it's easier to just say, fuck it, I'm going to do what they want, rather than push back against it. Which hunting's an example? It depends. So pilots to draw a flight path on flat ground. Bro, I don't even want to talk about the flat earth stuff. It's just stupid. There's no even reason. Like I have no, like, I don't want to talk about how flat earthers are stupid. Yeah, it's just fucking, you know, it's just, I don't want to even begin it. What if you're the one being unreasonable? Well, I think that you have to sometimes judge an argument based off of its logical merits. And I think that's one way that, like, with the streamer thing, like, for example, like, a lot of the logical and like, the argumentation that's used for, they're used for the issue, this issue, is it is just bad argumentation. That's basically what it comes down to. Yeah, the logic sucks. Can't argue your own point. Sure. The point that I'm making is that streamers are large advertisements for a game. I think that streamers should be able to get a priority queue into games that have large queues, because that advertisement is worth a lot of money, and seeing a streamer in a queue for a long time makes people less likely to buy the game. I think that's really what it comes down to. Is that hard for you to understand? You don't have that much impact on game sales, you're entitled to nothing? Well, if I don't have that much impact on game sales, then why do companies try to pay me millions of dollars to influence game sales? Why do you think that is? Yeah. Because there's a lot of shit game companies. So so you think that because they because, like, any game company that pays a streamer is fundamentally a shit game company? How does this work? You aren't special, you're a gamer just like us. Well, then why are they paying me millions of dollars and they're not paying you millions of dollars? Why does this happen? I'm sure he's thinking of a response. Doesn't feel right for other paying customer that the streamer gets priority. Doesn't feel right. I mean, that sounds like it's not like I don't think that's very logical, right? I mean, doesn't feel right. Like, why does it not feel right? Yeah, it's not an argument. It's just copium. It's like every other like entertainment medium works that way. Yeah, I think that person's not saying anything anymore. Perceptions of unfairness can also cause people to quit. And this is what I was saying before about like what do you call it? Like having you know, allowing unreasonable people to direct something. To make decision. So I disagree with the fact that they should pay you to do it. If their game was good, they wouldn't need to pay you for your publicity. Well, I mean, that's not what they think. I mean, obviously, like, it's up to them. I think I'm level 20 now. Yeah. Oh, God. That shit's over. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know. How to get a priority queue? I'd be jealous because I don't have priority queue, even though I don't give attention to the game of thousands. Yeah, I think that it's a it's a negative feeling that's created primarily through jealousy. Imagine people struggles, role benefits being a streamer because it's a seemingly easy job. They don't respect or understand the work and talent behind it. Yeah, I've always said before, never complain to your chat about being a streamer because they'll just hate you for it. Why is it not still advertising? Everybody knows about them, Pega. I think it's a little bit more complex than that, but like, yeah, in general, I think that there's just a lot of priority people spend just as much not time as you. Honestly, this topic doesn't bother me if you had priority or not. Just wondering why you think you deserve it. I think deserve is always a it's kind of like a loaded word. Nobody deserves anything. It's just all kind of people doing what's in their best interest. So like I don't think anybody deserves anything. Really. It just kind of happens. I think it's just enacting in the best interest of the game, enacting a developer acting in their own best interest. I think that's the conclusion that they would come to. Seeing a huge queue and you know, you look at the game and it says, oh, I can't play the game for 13 hours. I can guarantee you that there are people that probably watched the beginning of those streams and said, well, I don't want to play this game. You can't even play it. It's mutually beneficial. It's not that complex. Okay, there we go. But that's what they will experience. That is what they will experience for like a very short period of time. Obviously, you know, those queues go away pretty fast on most servers, etc. But they don't really know that. And I think also, like, a lot of people, you have to understand that, like, whenever you're advertising to a large audience like that, you are advertising to people that don't really have, like, any real knowledge about the game, right? They have no idea. So, like, they don't know if this is normal. They don't know what this is. Like, it's a first impression. So as soon as they see somebody sitting in a huge long queue, they're just going to assume that's the way the game works. Should not show genuine experience, not just something fake just for you. I think that your idea, like in terms of advertisement, so like let's talk about that. We'll use another example that's similar to that, which is like McDonald's hamburgers. The McDonald's hamburgers, I don't know if you guys have ever been to McDonald's before, but the hamburgers that you see in the picture is not the same as the ones that you get at the store. They're not even close. And why is that? Well, they're showing an idealized version of the product. You know, this is an idealized, like, that's what advertisement really is. It's not really an average experience. You're showing an idealized version of the product that paints it in the best light possible. Picture isn't even food, it's decoration. In some cases it is, and I know that there were some laws made against that, but I don't really know where all of that stands. But when you're saying that, you walk in McDonald's, you get the advertised burger, but we get the shitty burger. You both get the same burger. Like, what the difference is the way that the burger looks. Right? I mean, it's the same burger either way. Everybody's eating the same burger. It's the display of the burger that's different. It's a very bad analogy. I don't really think it is. I think it's I like any, the thing is, like with any analogy, is that if you overanalyze any analogy, it will stop making sense. That's just the way it goes. Let's go out here. But yeah, like most analogies kind of fall apart whenever they're overanalyzed. It's like Nike giving influencers new sneakers, everybody else waits in line. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes. And I think that gamers aren't really as used to that because they are under the impression that streamers are the same as they are. Because streamers try to give them that impression to get more donations and to have them feel like they're relating to some person that's making $2 million a year. Some like 19-year-old actually has something in common with like some popular streamer. It's just bullshit. But yeah, there's a lot of I think a lot of naive notions in like people that consume content online. Very vocal minority that thinks that, but personally I don't think most people are smart enough to realize that. I think most people get it. I think gamers are kind of unique in that way. where I would say that, like, the way that's, like, I think the problem is, like, because it's the same fucking one, isn't it? Yeah. The way that streaming allows you to have, like, such a close interaction with your audience, I think the outcome of that is that you see a lot of people who, you know, these, like, really, really popular streamers, and you spend a lot of time with them, and you think that, oh, well, this is just like me. This person's just like I am. And in the process of doing that, I think that people actually believe it. And in believing it, that's why they think that they're, like, having some kind of shared struggle with the content creator or with the streamer, because they spend a lot of time playing with them or watching their stream. It's literally a parasocial relationship. Big reason people play games is because due to being an uneven playing field, getting early access position IRL make people feel treated unfairly. Yeah, I think so. I just think realistically, nobody's really gonna quit games if a streamer gets to queue in before they do. I don't really think that's gonna happen. I think there'd be people that say that they would, but it's not really gonna happen. And even if it did happen, like, I'm sure, like, somebody would do it, right? Of course somebody would do it. But it would be like a massively net positive effect. And the negative effect would just be next to nothing. Rationalizing chairs right now is crazy. Well, I think that this is what the problem is, right? Is that nobody has a problem with, like, basketball players or something like that, you know, getting sneakers or whatever from Nike or whatever, like any other form of, like, entertainment benefits that, like, people that are in entertainment get. But I think gamers have a problem with it because they think that they're the same as a streamer because they're playing the same game. Most people don't have a problem with streamers getting free games as well. Yeah. I think people get mad about that too, but it's just not really as common. You think she's so special because... So, I'm gonna read your messages and I need to go to bed. Close my mind, don't see a flaw in your own logic. Dude wants to be first in line for everything. He isn't bringing massive engagement. That was already there. People defending you are parasocial. This is not a proper noun. Online panhandlers thinks he's important. It's online panhandler. Yeah. Do you think she's so special because he has... Oh, you think he's so... Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, you're illiterate. I mean... It's just, like... not much to say there. Guy's in denial. I mean, it's just he's illiterate. He's a shit. I hate to say it, but, like, usually, like, if I find out it's somebody's second language, I obviously completely change how I feel. But if somebody is illiterate in their first language, I immediately don't take anything they say seriously. Yeah, like, I just immediately, like, it's just right into the fucking garbage. That's it, bro. And worth banning. I'll use them for content another day. I don't really care that much, man. Some people are so stupid that they're funny. I don't know if they're dyslexic, though. You can memorize the way that words are supposed to be typed. I'm dyslexic. Yeah, use Google. Yeah, live around it. Time to reread your sentences. Yeah, it's like, I just think like that's much more like, what are the odds that he's actually just this, you know, fucking poor dyslexic, you know, person who's fucking poor and the world is against him, or I think that what are the odds of that, or he's just a retard. But he's probably just a retard. He's probably just, yeah, he's probably a fucking moron. That's what it is, man. But yeah, it's like in general, like I've said this before, right? If I find out somebody believes in like astrology or like tarot card readings or anything like that, I just immediately take everything they say less seriously. Yeah, or crystals or anything like that. Crystal meth, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too. Same with streamers. Yeah, if streamers believe in it, I would think the same thing. Believe or agnostic about it. I don't really require people to have a strong opinion about something that I don't like. That's a bit much. I think most people just don't care. Tarot cards aren't always seen as something as a fact. People get inspiration out of the meaning they find in the card. Yeah, and I think that's nice, and everything has its own place, but if you actually believe that it's divinely inspired, or that there's any sort of like ordering of the universe that's divined from the cards or anything like that, then I think you're stupid. I mean, sure. I think it's the same thing as like, why do you flip a coin whenever you do something? Is because whenever the coin's in the air, it finds out what you actually, you realize what you really want to have happen. So it's like the coin flip is not necessarily, the coin flip itself does not necessarily matter. It's the process of doing it that is like the, you know, self-understanding or something, you know? Most people believe in God. Doesn't have to be an intellectual issue. The thing is, like, if you read something in the Bible and it said that there was a bush that was on fire that talked to Moses 2,000 years ago, you can't really go back and disprove that in the same way that you can go back to last week's horoscope and say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That didn't happen. Right? Like, it's more readily disprovable. Still equally stupid though, if I say for myself. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a really religious person. Like I think that people are Like, I hope it's real, you know. It'd be good, right? If, like, you know, you die, you go to heaven, and like everybody's chilling, and you know, it's good. Like, it sounds great. But I mean, I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. There's no internet? No, there'd be internet in heaven, but only for people that are born, you know, after 1990 or something, you know. The fuck? There we go. Upgrade available on the screen. Oh, it's just dog shit ass game, dude. But yeah, just in general, like I try to, what do you call it? I try to think about things in terms of like a little bit more of a grounded reality, but I mean, it sometimes it can be hard too, because like you don't really people don't really know what's going on. I think, in terms of like, you know, the world, the universe. I don't think they have any idea. I think that's really what it comes down to. Yeah, nobody has any fucking clue. But yeah, anyway, including you, well, yeah, I mean, that's true. Okay. I'm gonna go to bed. It's been late, and I've just walked around and done fucking nothing for 3 hours. Ah. I'm gonna take a piss. I'm gonna go to bed. If I wake up in a couple of hours, if I can, I'll stream the thing. If not, I'll complain about it on Twitter after it happens. See you guys later. Peace.